In this episode, we discuss building a team for your private practice. We talk about what the number one asset is of your private practice. We also discuss 3 magical questions that your team is asking you every single day. Next, we also talk about how to find great team members. We walk you through step by step how to find great team members. We also discuss the red flags of when you hired the wrong person. Key things to look for to know that you may not have the right person on your team. And lastly, we discuss virtual assistants in your billing company and the role they play on your team. Building a high performance team. Let's go. At the time, I was horrible. I was sucking the place up. I was stinking the place up. I was a horrible manager, a horrible leader. My team didn't like me. They weren't following me. We weren't getting good results. They were frustrated. I was frustrated. Everybody was frustrated. And when this speaker said these 3 things, I realized where I was going wrong. I'm excited for this episode. So again, my background is mostly in being a part of and building high performance teams. When I was in college, I was a part of a football team. We won 2 Big Ten championships. We started off the worst in the Big Ten. By the time I finished, we were the best in the Big Ten. We won a couple of Big Ten championships. I played in the NFL. I played for the worst of the worst teams when I was playing, like the Oakland Raiders. And then also played for some of the best organizations at the time around 2005, 2006, like the Seattle Seahawks and the New York Giants. So I got a chance to see low performance teams and high performance teams. After my football career, I was involved in a bunch of different sales organizations. I was a sales manager. I had success in that area. I had failure in that area. I was able to see what kind of teams work well, what kind of teams don't work well. And recently, we started our medical practice in 2018. And so we've made a bunch of mistakes during that time. And we're going to go over in this episode. We're going to share all of the bad things that we did, all the mistakes that we made. And hopefully you don't go through those same mistakes as well. Before I get into that, everything I'm going to share today, I've blatantly stolen from other authors, from other entrepreneurs, and and I want people to steal from everything that we share today. So let's hop right into it. First of all, when we're talking about building a team, building a high performance team, you have to recognize that your team is going to determine your success. They say teamwork makes the dream work, and your practice is only going to be as good as the team you put together. Even if you only build a small boutique style solo practice, you're still going to have some form of a team to be able to truly succeed. And so the number one asset in your practice is going to be your team. The number one headache in your practice are going to come from your team, because people are people. And so I remember one time, I'll tell you a quick story. I was at a seminar one time. It was a leadership and personal development seminar. They were talking about team building. And the speaker said something that I will never, ever forget. At the time, I was horrible. I was sucking the place up. I was stinking the place up. I was a horrible manager, a horrible leader. My team didn't like me. They weren't following me. We weren't getting good results. They were frustrated. I was frustrated. Everybody was frustrated. And when this speaker said these 3 things, I realized where I was going wrong. He said, you have to consider your team, as you're working with your team, that they have 3 questions that they're continually asking of you. And the answer to these questions, he said, will determine the quality of performance you get from your team. And so basically, to give context, he was saying the premise of the team that you have and the quality of the team, the context of that team and how good it is going to be based upon the quality of leadership that they're following. So it's going to start with the leader. Here are the 3 questions that he said that your team is always asking you, whether it's in medicine or any other kind of business. Number 1, are you committed to excellence. They want to know, did they sign up to a place where good enough is good enough, where it's okay to cut corners, where you know that you're not giving your best, but you're okay with that? They need to know that you're committed to excellence. If you want to get true buy-in from your team, they have to first of all realize that you are committed to excellence. You're committed to providing the best possible service you can to your patients. You're committed to providing the best possible environment for your staff members. So that's number one. Number two, can I trust you? Your team wants to know, can they trust you? Do they see you saying one thing but doing another? Do they see you being dishonest with the way you bill? Do they see you being dishonest with the way you work with suppliers? Do they see you being dishonest the way you communicate with patients? Do they see you treat somebody one way and you tell one person this piece of information, but you tell something different to somebody else because you're putting up some kind of smoke screen? They need to know, can they trust you? And number three, do you care about me personally? They want to know, are they just a number? Are they just a means to an end for you? Are they just somebody who, you hired because you believe you can make them money? They need to know that you care about them personally. They need to know you care about what's going on with their kids in their life. They need to know you care about what's going on in their marriage, in their health. Not saying that you have to be their counselor or their coach in all of those areas, but they just need to know that you care, that you're treating them like a human being. And so the stronger the yes to each of those questions, the better the team that you're going to have. The more yeses that you have in those three questions, the stronger the yeses. If you can get a strong yes in all of those three questions by every single individual member of your team, you have a great foundation to be able to create a high performance team. And so, that kind of it kind of starts there at first. So the next step would be to actually start to find the team members. And so to build that high performing team, one of my favorite phrases by Jim Rome is, if you want to have a great team, you have to have great people. And to have great people, you don't make them good, you find them good. And so the interviewing process and the hiring process is so key. And so we use Indeed specifically during our hiring process. Also, we do have times where we have referrals from current staff members, but for the most part, I would say 90+% of our staff members have been found via Indeed. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over one of our job posts, so you can kind of see what we do specifically to hire a team. What you'll notice in the job post is we are using our job post in every step in our hiring process as a filter. Because again, we are not making people high performing members of our team. We're finding high performing members of our team and attempting to recruit those individuals. To get a person who is the right fit for us, and to have that high performance mentality, we recognize that this is going to be a trait that they've had maybe since they were kids. We're just looking to try to find these individuals. So I'm going to read a post for our one of our Indeed posts for our certified medical assistant, or LPN. This is just part of it. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Our travel is key to our patient care strategy. If this is a problem for you, this may not be the right position for you. However, if you believe in inconveniencing yourself for the sake of the patient, you may be a good fit. We believe in maximizing our workday, and therefore, we have very little, if any, dead time during the day. So expect to work throughout the day in a fast-paced, supportive, and positive work environment. Now, why did I say those things? We purposely wrote that to deter the wrong kind of person. We want to cause the person who doesn't want to inconvenience themselves in the workplace for the patient. We want to cause the person who likes to have a bunch of dead time in work and go chat to their friends and, go check Facebook and we want those people to read that post and say, oh, this is not for me. We are intentionally filtering out those people who don't align with our mission in our company culture. We believe that a huge part of building a right team is discouraging the wrong team members to apply. We want to make sure that the right people are applying and going through the interview process. So that's the first thing that we would do. The next step is the actual interview process. So a person has read this job post. The fact that they've applied means that they've gotten past the first roadblock, the first filter, if you will. The second thing is the interview. And so we want to interview for those three things that I learned in that conversation that I had at that conference I went through. We want to interview for excellence, for people who value relationship, and we want to interview for trust. Trust is a big part of what we do. Here are some examples of interview questions. You don't have to use these interview questions, but here are just some examples. Feel free to use these if you like. Edit them for your own personal purposes or throw them out and use something else. Here are some common questions that I'll ask during the interview process because I interview everyone who we hire. Number one, are you aware of the high bar of performance our office has? So I'm setting this tone right off the bat. This is not going to be easy. We have a high bar that we've set. If you're signing up to work here, you're signing up to know that you're going to always be judged against that high bar. Number two, are you willing to learn and get better all the time? Again, we're setting the tone. This is what comes along with working here. It's going to always be a high bar that you're going to have to reach and meet on a day-to-day basis. And you're always going to be expected to learn new things as you're working with us. Number three, I will say we don't micromanage here. Once trained, we expect everyone to do their job without someone watching over their shoulder. Are you up for that challenge? Again, the right person is going to be thinking, of course I'm up for that challenge. Who are you talking to? The wrong person is going to be thinking, well, I kind of like to, I kind of need somebody to tell me what to do and, kind of check up on my work all the time. And so we're looking to try to filter the wrong person out. And by wrong, I mean wrong for us. They may be right for somewhere else, but they're wrong for us. And so one thing about building a high performance team, you have to decide what's high performing for you. We've determined a high performance means a couple of key criteria, and these are the things that we interview for. Next is, this is the question that we ask people. What is one of the most difficult challenges you faced in life? We ask that question for two reasons. First, I'm trying to determine, I ask, what's the most difficult obstacle they faced in life and how did they overcome it? I'm trying to determine their level of grit. We found that a person's level of grit surpasses their level of education, their level of intellect. All of those things is the grit that truly determines whether they'll be able to succeed in our fast-paced workplace environment. So, if they tell me something like, if I say, what's the most difficult thing that you've overcome? And they say, well, when I was in high school, I got a C before, and it just really devastated me. I got this C, and I was always getting A's, and, I was depressed for weeks, and, it took me a while to overcome, and that's been the most difficult thing. In my mind, I'm thinking this person is not very gritty because this is the most difficult thing they've had to overcome. Conversely, I'll give you an answer that I've gotten before. Someone said, I was adopted. I was given away at birth by my mom. And, I lived in an adopted family. And, I always had trouble because I wanted to know who my real mom was. And it was just difficult knowing that she didn't decide to raise me. And, I had some struggle with identity issues growing up. And, it was very, very tough, financially, we struggled to have money to put food on the table. This is a person who's went through some tough things. And the fact that they've overcome it shows that they're very, very gritty. And so that person would be, they would get a gold star for me. Like, they've overcome all of these obstacles. Maybe this person is the right fit for what we do. And so those are just some of the key questions that we would ask people in our interviewing process to determine if they're a good fit and if they could potentially be a high performing member of our team. And so everything that I'm going over right now is based upon the principle that you want to hire slowly. So we first do the job post. So they have to respond to the job post. After they respond to the job post, then we go through interviewing questions. And then after they go through the interviewing questions, the next step is we're going to have them shadow our team. Now we do this for a couple of reasons. First, we're going to bring them in on an actual work day so they can actually see what we're doing. We want them to get a taste of what it will be like working with us. We want them to see, the organized chaos that goes on in the practice. And so, first and foremost, we want the interviewee to get a taste day to day of what we do. But secondly, we want to get feedback from the team because the team is going to be the one who's going to be training this new hire. The team is going to be the one who's going to be relying on this new hire on a day-to-day basis to be able to perform. And we want also the interviewee to see that we take and receive the feedback from our team. And we let them know that their feedback, the team's feedback, will play a role in whom we hire. And so the shadowing process is very key. There's been times where there was somebody that I was pretty gung-ho on, and then they shadow. And then our team members say, nope, that person is not it. You can tell they're only trying to work here because they just don't like their job. By the way, a person disliking their previous job is not a motivating factor on the reason why you should be hiring them in your new job. It's a very good point that they may not like their last job because they were the problem. And so be mindful of people who complain a lot about their previous employer because oftentimes they were the problem with their previous employer. So the shadowing process gives the interviewee an opportunity to see if they want to work with us. It gives us an opportunity to see if we want to work with them. And so that's kind of the hiring process that we do from start to finish with our medical practices. The hiring process is all about filtering. The first filter is we make a post that the wrong people are not going to respond to. The second filter is the questions that we ask them. Depending upon how they respond, they may not make it to the next step. The third filter is them being around the team members, and maybe they may not make it past that. But now after that, they get hired. But the filtering process does not end. We are always constantly reevaluating because we want to make sure that we have the right people in our team. And conversely, just as important, that we're moving the wrong people out of our team. There's a slogan that we follow that we didn't make up, but we've heard several times, which is we hire very slowly. We hire at a snail's pace. So from the person responding to our Indeed post and to them actually getting hired, that could easily be a 2 or 3 week process. Easily. But we fire quickly. We've hired people and fired them before they got their first paycheck. We've done that multiple times. Why? Because the hiring process is not an exact science. Sometimes people will slip through the cracks. Sometimes you'll hire people and you realize, oh, this person is not who we thought they would be. And the key red flags that we look for on people that whom we would fire very quickly are signs of dishonesty. People who are not problem solvers, they're actually problems. People who don't come with solutions, but they come actually, they create problems themselves. People who don't work well as a team. They don't work well with the rest of the team. Those people got to go. People who are lazy, they don't have a good work ethic. Those people got to go. After the first 5 days, I would literally sit down with Dr. Mercy, my wife, the owner of our practice, and we'll have a conversation. And we're okay saying that we made a mistake and cutting our losses early, as opposed to waiting 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 months to cut our losses. So we fire very quickly. We hire slowly. We fire quickly. Absolutely. And so when you just said that, 2 things popped up in my mind. First of all, your billing company is going to be a part of your team. And so choose your billing company wisely. Again, if you're a practice that's taking insurance, choose your billing company wisely because they're literally going to be an extension of your practice. It's almost going to be like they're working with you at your practice. So you want to make sure you choose them wisely, go off of referrals and establish a good relationship and a good rapport with any billing company that you may use. But lastly, and we'll probably make a whole video about this. Virtual assistants, virtual nurses. We use 4 virtual nurses right now. And they're a key part of our team. They don't work in our clinic because they're overseas, but they play a huge role in what we do. We go through the same interview process with them, besides the fact that we can't have them come shadow because they're in another country. But we go through those same questions to filter the wrong person out. But they play a huge role because they're very much a support. They play a supporting role to the people who are actually in the clinic, serving the patients face to face. They can take care of a lot of the administrative work and the back end work to help the people who are actually in the clinic perform at their highest level. Absolutely. First and foremost, building a team is like, from a physical fitness standpoint, building your body. It's never done. They say that health is not owned, it's rented. A high performance team is not owned, it's rented. It's temporary. You have to always continually be renewing. And so that's the reason why continuous learning is important. Continually investing in the relationships, continually developing that trust. The trust piece is a continuous piece. The relationship piece, that is a continuous piece. The pursuing of excellence is a continuous piece. But I do have a few resources that'll help you with those pieces. Number 1 is a book by Orrin Woodward called Launching a Leadership Revolution. Highly recommend that book. Number 2, a book by Ray Dalio called Principles. Highly, highly recommend that book. And number 3, a book by Ken Blanchard called The 1 Minute Manager. These 3 books, I believe, are foundational to anybody who truly wants to be a team builder, especially the Ray Dalio book and the Ken Blanchard book, the 1 Minute Manager and the Principles book. I believe that they're required reading for anybody who truly wants to build a high-performing team, especially specifically in the dermatology space. If there's any specific topics that you want us to do a deep dive in, definitely let us know. We want to be a resource for the office managers out there, for the doctors, for the dermatologists out there who own their own practice, who are looking for resources, who are looking for information, encouragement as they go through this journey of running and operating their own practice. So we're going to be producing a bunch of these videos, a bunch of this content. Check us out on our social medias, on Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook, on TikTok. We're on all platforms. Check us out there where we'll be posting clips and information that'll be beneficial. We want this to be a tool in your toolbox as you're building your practice. We want this content to be a tool that you can reference and use whenever you need to. What other specific topics related to the business of private practice management would you like for us to cover? Please share in the comments below or reach out to us on social media or our email address, thedermbiz@gmail.com. Our mission is to create a movement of collaboration and support amongst physician-owned private practice owners. If you would like to join that movement, again, don't forget to like, share, comment, and please don't forget to subscribe.